Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Life is Love School channel. So, I pushed out a episode on how not to take things personally yesterday. And within a day, I got a follow on question. So, that was pretty awesome. So, the question goes like this, and I'll just read it. It says, Hey, Yume, I heard your episode, How to Not Take Things Personally, and it motivated me to out to you for advice. And I hope that you have some suggestions for me. I recently started to do podcasts to help people overcome depression. In a conversation with my sister, she commented that my delivery was not as smooth as Brene Brown. She said that I was too hesitant, used too many filler words and pauses, and the delivery wasn't well structured. She was the one who encouraged me to use my talent in storytelling and share my battle of depression to help people. So it's very disheartening to have her put me down after I finally mustered the courage to record after thinking about it for years. I thought that she would be happy that I finally made the leap, but instead, she poured a bucket of cold water over my head. I know I'm not perfect, but how she criticized me made me feel very hurt, and I'm considering giving up. I know that she has a tendency to be critical, and she's never done a podcast herself, but still, her comments stung because she's older than me, and I've always looked up to her. So, such a great question. Thank you for asking it. I think the first thing to call out is that even though she is your sister, it may be the case that she might not be happy for your success. In fact, it happens more often than we like to see that friends and family may encourage you to be successful up to a certain point, but definitely not beyond how successful they are. So they simply can't stand when other people are more successful than them. So when that happens, they would rather belittle or ignore your accomplishments, and they cannot share in your happiness. So, this is one more example of why it's really important for you to live life and dance to the beat of your own drum, because people's behavior, what they say, what they do, may or may not have your best interest in mind. And I think in this situation, it probably doesn't have your best interest in mind. So definitely don't let other people's opinion destroy your self confidence or your uniqueness or stop you from pursuing your dreams. I think you're very brave for doing what you're doing because you're sharing your own story, which requires you to put yourself out there and be really open and very vulnerable. When you put yourself out there like the way you do, you are opening the door for criticism. Some people are not going to like it. Some people are going to think that, you're too much or you're not enough. We simply have no ability to make everybody happy. So once we make peace with us, then the next step is to say, okay, given the fact that I can't please everybody, why don't I at least please myself and live the life that I desire and be fully myself? So I want to share a writing by Theodore Roosevelt, which I think you might really like. It's called The Man in the Arena, and it goes like this. He said, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievements, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." I think it's absolutely fantastic that you put yourself in the arena. By putting yourself in the arena, you are inspiring everybody else who's still too timid and too scared to be themselves. You're giving them an inspiration and the permission to say, okay, I've done this. You can do it too. You're like the first person to leap into a freezing swimming pool, right? It's always the hardest when the first person does it. So by you being brave, you inspire other people to be brave. And this experience is also a lens for you to see where people actually stand. You definitely don't need to confront your sister, but it helps you see that some friends and some families are not necessarily always have your best interests in mind. And also, yet another example of what other people say or do is generally not personal to you, but a projection of their inner world. She might be dealing with some inner demons where she's, always wanted to be, this and that, do more of this. And yet she's stuck in her 9 to 5 job because she's too scared to put herself out there. And she's surprised that you actually made the leap. And that perhaps made her quite envious. So remember that unjust criticism is often a disguised compliment because it means that you've done something so amazing that it aroused jealousy and envy. Nobody kicks a dead dog. When you think about why people are envious, oftentimes it's a passive aggressive way of dealing with their own insecurities. It's quite often that people that have a tendency to be envious come from a childhood where they felt they were never good enough. And so they go into this compare and despair loop where they're constantly comparing themselves against other people and feeling like they come up short. And they also have a scarcity mindset where they feel that, yes, other people can be successful, other people can have money, other people can do what they want, they can run the business, but all of that is not available to me. When they have that mindset, they feel that the only way for them to feel better is if they step you down. So they try to denigrate the person that makes them feel less than. So, and that's the sad way of how they try to make themselves feel better. It's a really shaky way of building self-esteem. And it's almost feels like this envious person is trying to suck your energy in order to feel more functioning. And sometimes they take like pleasure in other people's misfortune. So if the way to deal with this is actually to not take their opinions seriously, knowing where they come from. If you start to feel small, that's actually falling for the trap of where the envious person wants you to be. So you want to catch that feeling of feeling diminished and belittling yourself, and then stop yourself from doing it. Don't let their insults stick. And definitely don't apologize for your success, for what you've done, for being out there and shining. You don't have to be less than to make other people feel better about themselves. One strategy that sometimes works is that you could encourage the other person and remind them that they also have the strength to be successful. Encourage them to count their own blessings, encourage them to do whatever they wanted to do. And sometimes that's enough to shift their attention, but always make sure that you're protecting yourself. So some people like to do visualization where they would imagine like a protective bubble around them so that the envious person's energy cannot get to them. That may be useful to you, but ultimately, what you need to do for yourself is to take care of yourself. And that may mean limiting and setting boundaries with your sister. Just because somebody is related to you by blood does not necessarily make them family. So that's something that I emphasize over and over. And you have every right to decide who you spend time with and how much time you spend with them. So thanks again for asking the question. I hope that's helpful. And everybody else, if you like or have any kind of comments, please put it down in the comments section and check out the show notes for how you could submit a question as well. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.